Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Central News for Friday the 27th of June. I'm Hilary Entwistle. The High Court refused Safe Water Alternative New Zealand Incorporated's application for interim relief of fluoride into Hamilton's water supply. This means that the process to put fluoride back into the water supply of Hamilton City will now begin. It will take up to 7 days to begin adding fluoride to the city's water supply and a further 1 to 2 weeks for fluoride to be distributed right throughout the water supply network. Safe Water Alternative New Zealand will continue with their application to challenge fluoridation of the substantial High Court hearing. The date of the High Court hearing is set for the 9th of September. Western Bay Plenty students catching the bus to school will be charged $1.15 for concessionary travel and $1.60 for cash fares from next year, Bay Plenty Regional Council has announced. The council approved the final fare this week, which will apply to all school students travelling to and from school on school hopper or bay hopper buses in the city. The fares will come into place from 2015 when the council's new school hopper service replaces the bulk of Ministry of Education funded school bus services throughout Tauranga. Funding for Tauranga's urban school bus routes is being withdrawn due to a Ministry of Education policy defining who is eligible for school transport funding. Lessons learned in the grounding of the Rena on Astrolabe Reef will be part of an extensive coastal navigation safety review undertaken by Maritime New Zealand. The review, starting next week, looks to identify risks and assess current and potential safety measures as part of a focus on developing an intelligence-led risk-focused approach to maritime safety. Maritime New Zealand Director Keith Manch advises the review is not a response to any particular incident, but says Maritime New Zealand will consider what can be learned from major incidents, such as the grounding of the Rena. Hamilton City Council has supported a staff recommendation to undertake a business case examination into a jointly owned public company to manage water infrastructure. It follows a report to the Waikato Mayoral Forum in April that recommended Hamilton City, Waipa and Waikato District Councils consider co-funding a business case to look at the establishment of a joint council-controlled organisation for water and wastewater activities. Any business case looking at the formation of a possible CCO will not go ahead until there is agreement from all three councils. Hamilton Mayor Julie Hardacre says this is only about the business case at this stage. Western Bay Plenty rates are going up an average of 4.96%, allowing for the collection of $54.78 million in direct rates in the 2014 to 15 year. Council considered 371 submissions on the draft annual plan and made some changes in response to submitters' concerns, reports Council. A significant change has been the decision to restore $200,000 to the roading budget, but the most significant change to this year's annual plan is Council's proposal to move a single charge for the district's 5 wastewater schemes and a single charge for the 3 water schemes. This will take place over 3 years. Now for our marine forecast for our regions, West Coast Raglan. Saturday, after that gale warning from today, it looks still pretty rough out there. Southwest 35 knots, easing overnight Saturday, variable to 10 knots. High tide in Raglan is at 10:40 a.m. East Coast Bay Plenty, southwest 20 knots, but 30 knots gusting 40 knots in the west, easing to 15 knots, but 20 knots in the west in the evening. Rough sea in the west, easing in the evening. Fine, mainly fine out there. High tide in Tauranga is 7:43 a.m. Just ahead, the Waipa annual plan and the big changes made. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. It's that time of year when our councils start to sign off their annual plans and the submissions are laid to rest. What is the latest news and where's the council up to with the Porongia water supply?
Well, the situation at the moment is that our water supply on Porongia We have a consent till 2030, and that seems a long way away. But when you're reorganising or having to reorganise a water system, then that's not a long lead-in period. And effectively, what will happen at that point is that our capacity to take water from the catchment on Prongia will reduce by about, we'll go from 12,000 cubic metres per day down to about 3,000 cubic metres a day. So we're only going to be able to take about 25% out of the stream that we currently are using. So that'll mean that we have to look for alternative supplies for Te Awamutu, and of course we've got a treatment facility on the side of Prongia now that is capable of producing 12,000 cubic metres a day. Which will be redundant to a large degree, and this is all because of national water standards now limiting the amount of water you can take out of catchments.
When did those standards come in around water?
Oh, look, I couldn't give you an exact date, but it's a national water policy statement that the regional council have to abide by, and then the district councils have to apply to the region for consents to take water from those streams. And I suppose from my perspective, we probably need to be a little bit more pragmatic about it. We have a situation with ours in Te Awamutu. We've been taking water out of the stream since about 1926. And it seems logical to me to carry on with the infrastructure already there, to carry on taking the water from that stream rather than going and mucking up another catchment. So I think there needs to be a little bit more pragmatic decision making on some of these issues, because it'll be a huge cost, and we're estimating that having to go and find a new source, pipe it possibly from the Waikato River over by a treatment plant in Cambridge, could be a cost of $28 million for the community. So it's a huge cost, and we need to look at rationalising those.
How will the council go about assessing the environmental impacts of all of these options?
Well, we will have to undertake that environmental assessment process. The regional council is the one who I suppose has the statutory authority to grant or not the consent, but the council would have to employ consultants to do an analysis of the stream and what impact that we've had, what impact we're likely to have on other catchments if we decide to take it from those. But at the moment, the alternative really is looking for us to be actually drawing from the Waikato River and pumping it across. We already have treatment facilities in Cambridge. They would need to be expanded, but it would be, that's the most logical alternative supply.
How much is that looking to cost?
Oh, well, that's part of that 28 million that I mentioned before. So effectively, it's expanding that plant, putting in a massive mains from Cambridge to Te Awamutu, and of course you've got all the additional operating costs because it has to be pumped from the Waikato River, whereas at Prongia we've got gravity fed supply, so there's all those additional costs that run with that.
Talking about the annual plan, what is the rate increase over the next year?
We have a 2.9% rate increase, which is significantly less than was predicted in our long-term plan, which was about 4.7, I think. So with some cost savings and a few projects that are not going ahead, that's managed to be retained at that 2.9%.
As you mentioned, that's quite a lot lower than was anticipated. What are some of those projects that you've put aside or deferred? I mean, not many councils around the country can boast that kind of saving.
Well, one of the major ones that's gone on hold at the present time is the Cambridge swimming pool project, and we've managed to get savings by doing joint services with adjoining local bodies in the areas of civil defence, for argument's sake. So we've made internal savings. So, but the major project I think that has actually been just deferred at the moment is the Cambridge pool upgrade.
Why did you guys decide to defer the pool?
Well, effectively what happened was the council had planned to build a swimming pool, and it was at about $12 million, I think, somewhere in that sort of order for a new pool facility. But there were a lot of arguments within the community whether they wanted to retain their existing 50-metre outdoor pool or provide, which is only available for 5 months of the year over the summer, as opposed to a new indoor complex that would be available 365 days a year, heated water, hydrotherapy pools, those sorts of facilities. So, and there was a debate going within the community, and council said, well, if the community can raise $4 million, then they will fund the rest by either asset sales or a loan funding. So the council was going to provide the $8 million, as it were, $8 or $9 million.
To find out anything about Waipa District's annual plan, visit their website waipadc.gov.nz and you can find a copy of the annual plan there. Just ahead, gender roles in science and engineering. Welcome back to Central News. There has been a major push in recent years to encourage women to enter STEM subjects at tertiary level. That is science, engineering, technology and math. I spoke with a woman who has been in the industry for 25 years to see if the industry changed over the years when it comes to classic gender roles.
The quick answer is a lot. When I think of my degree choice, one of the first things I was thinking of wanting to do for a degree was chemical engineering. But when I looked at job opportunities, then one of the glossy prospects for a chemical engineer back then was to work on an oil rig. But women weren't allowed on oil rigs, so I realised if I took that area, then I was really limiting my potential, really. But fortunately found another subject that would combine the sciences that I was interested in. If I think about nowadays, then I mean, certainly with being at a university in an enlightened environment, I'm very comfortable here as a female. I believe there's still dark corners in industry though, and with conversation with people that I know. And sometimes it's a little subtle how the influence on women is it occurs. Even when it comes down to the subtleties of being invited for the drinks after work sort of thing, so not necessarily just things that turn up in the work environment. So my concern these days would be exclusion of women from certain situations that prevent their networking, and if they're not networking, then people aren't aware of the extent of their abilities as much as they would be for men, and therefore that will limit their career prospects. So I think there is some way to go still.
Why do you think women tend to shy away from those STEM subjects? I mean, are we made differently and men simply just do it better?
Right. Well, I don't want to deny that we are made differently, but when I look at classes that I teach in with small numbers of women, generally they are at the top of the class. So, or certainly, in the upper half. There's more of them in the upper half than the lower half, for sure. And so I don't think it's the ability that is the issue. I think that their absence in these subjects, well, my guess anyway, I mean, I'm not an expert in this area, but would come down to more of the experiences and the encouragement that they've had relative to that males have had during their schooling and upbringing. There is no doubt in my mind that men and women, or boys and girls, are treated differently, and in fact there's research showing that if you dress a baby in blue or pink, will decide the response of a stranger to that baby. So, society sets up expectations of people, and I think that is more of an explanation of the skew of the numbers in those subjects rather than the ability.
Diverse backgrounds can contribute to diversity of ideas in design, which is a very important process in engineering. you said that, and Michelle Obama actually said something quite similar when she talked about encouraging women into STEM subjects. What are the diversity benefits that women do bring to the industry?
I mentioned that that we treat males and females differently. So just from those different expectations and experiences, because of that, will set people up to behave differently, and just to have different angles of coming at things, really. If you think of anybody in, say, particular females that may have been excluded from the crowd in the past, that's likely to set them up with a different way of doing things. So although it's a bit, you know, I wouldn't like that to be encouraged. You know, the exclusion is not a good thing, but I think there are actually some positives that can come out from that. But allowing myself to stray dangerously into stereotyping, so hopefully my male colleagues will forgive me for this. If we were to generalise, I mean, women are commonly stereotyped to be more caring. They commonly stereotyped to have a greater desire for communication. And you can see that those attributes would have benefits in a team environment. After my talk that I gave, I deal with Scouts, and I have I have high school children in my home. So I've been asking around a little about what people these days at that age think about the difference between the behaviour between the sexes. And one of the responses I got was that the problem with boys is they were more likely to behave stupidly to show off to their friends.
Coming up, your weather for the weekend and younger farmers. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Young Farmers has been around for many decades as a way of networking for youth in the rural sector. But now they have primary and teenage groups, and the finals for the best of the bunch are coming up very soon for the AgriKids New Zealand and Teen Ag.
Sure thing. So the AgriKids and Teen Ag, they basically run alongside the Young Farmers contest. So it's a way that we can get our young people with the AgriKids and Teen Ag groups into the contest side of things for their development, so that when they're coming through, they're able to compete against each other, develop their skills, and then further to take those along to the Young Farmer contest further down the track. So the finals are coming up, and that's basically what we're doing here.
What have these young competitors gone through to get to the finals?
So the finals are held at a national level, and that coincides with the Young Farmer contest in July. What they do is they compete at a regional level, so we have 7 regions throughout the country. So often we'll have anywhere between 25 and 30 teams turning up to a regional level. The top 3 go through to the national level. The contest comprises of doing a whole lot of practical and theory-based challenges, so there could be 7 or 8 challenges that you have to do within a day, and they'll usually take 2 hours at a time.
Theory-based, it's not something that I kind of put with farming. What were you referring to there?
So there's a lot of general knowledge type questions, which can be general but also be farming related, or so it could be quizzes. Then there's also practical challenges as well, where it might be, you know, putting a fence together, or hanging a gate, you know, and things like that. So it's quite well rounded, and you know, they don't know what they're going to get on the day basically.
What are some of the prizes up for grabs for the winners?
So we have quite a range of prizes which are given from sponsors. So some of it includes cash, which goes to the winning team, but there's also other things such as clothing and apparel. There's a few different vouchers and stuff like that for driver education for the Teen Ag guys, and other sort of courses that will help the AgriKids guys, and a few other sort of just, you know, extra little things to sort of entice them in. But the main prize at the end of the day is the bragging rights they get.
AgriKids New Zealand and Teen Ag are part of Young Farmers.
So can you tell me about these little subgroups?
Yeah, so I guess the concept comes from the pipeline program that we do. So we've got young farmers as your 18 to 31-year-olds, but we want to develop people that are coming into the industry as well. So we have the Agri Kids, which is the primary school kids, and so that's basically one club through the whole country. So if you're a primary school kid, you can join Agri Kids, and it's a good way to be able to get knowledge on the industry and be able to compete. The teenagers at high school, so we set up young farmer type clubs at a high school level, and then those people can join those clubs, run clubs and compete in the contest at the same time. So it's part of developing the young people coming into the industry, as well as trying to develop people that don't know about the industry at school. So we are in schools that don't have a rural, that aren't in rural sort of areas. So it's about trying to get more exposure to the agriculture industry and get them involved in it.
Why was Younger Farmers established?
So Young Farmers originally was set up as a social networking type club, or number of clubs throughout the country for people that had a rural focus. However, that's probably developed over the years to being someone that's interested in the agriculture industry, whether it be they working or grew up on farm or just enjoyed talking about farming, that can get involved, meet people and develop themselves through the social aspect, but also the developmental aspect that they have as well.
If you'd like to find out more about Young Farmers, you can visit their youngfarmers.co.nz website or their Facebook page. Now for the weather for the weekend. Hamilton, you have a rather nice Saturday ahead. Becoming fine with a dying southwesterly, your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of a very chilly 2. The rest of the Waikato remaining showers clearing early in the morning, then mostly fine. The southwesterly is dying out. Paeroa 15 and 5, Matamata 14 and 5, Te Awamutu 15 and 2, and Tokoroa 13 and 1 for your overnight low. Bay Plenty, Tauranga, your Saturday will become fine with the westerlies dying out. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 5. Tupuki and Eastern Bay Plenty, showers clearing early morning, then mostly fine, and the westerlies dying away. 15 and 5 for you, Tupuki. Sunday for you, Hamilton, will be mostly fine in the morning, with cloud increasing as the day goes on and a northeasterly developing. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 7. The rest of the Waikato, your Sunday will have cloudy periods increasing, northeasterlies developing. Paeroa 15 and 8, Matamata 14 and 8, Te Awamutu 15 and 7, Tokoroa 13 and 5. Tauranga becoming cloudy throughout your Sunday with a developing northeasterly. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 9. Tupuki, the same for you, becoming cloudy with a developing northeasterly. Your expected high is 14 and an overnight low of 9. That is the news for today and this week. If you'd like to get in touch with us here at Central News, you can email us news@tvcentral.co.nz or like us on our Facebook page. Send us a message. I'll be back next week bringing you more of the success stories of our regions, and of course we continue to look at some of those annual plans. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening and a fantastic weekend.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.